focus on experience, the customer experience, the employee experience, the buying experience, the selling experience. If we look at that experience and the outcomes that we're trying to achieve, regardless of whether you're selling a data center, a tower, a piece of fiber, a managed solution, whatever that is, the experience matters. And when we can tailor it and align it to the outcomes that each party is looking for, it really elevates value and the opportunity to do things together over and over again. So this is Ben Edmond at Connectbase. You are watching me live on Data Center Go-to-Market Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Data Center Go-to-Market Podcast. I'm Joshua Feinberg, and I'm thrilled to have a very special guest here with me today. I'm welcoming Ben Edmond, who is the CEO and founder of Connectbase in Massachusetts. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Joshua. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
My pleasure as well. Ben, can you, for our audience that isn't familiar with your background or Connectbase, can you give us a little bit of the history of how you got into the space, what you've done previously in connectivity and telecommunications, and in particular, how you ended up in this role where you're causing so much of a change and transformation in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So for all those who don't know, I stepped out of undergraduate day one into the world of telecommunications with a company called MCI back in the mid-90s, and I've never left this space. I refer to myself as a resident telecom nerd, really understanding at a deep level through a lot of practice of being in the providers, and really had four what I think are special experiences that led me on the journey to found Connectbase. That was with MCI, a competitive provider. Most people remember a company called eSpire that turned into Expedius, and TW Telecom bought us. I spent 8 years there running product, leading the overall marketing stack up through and to including the sale to TW. I spent a number of years at FiberLight from their early years where they were constructing metro big fiber networks for the carriers, and then leading the sales and marketing organization there and the journey to wireless backhaul, data center connectivity, and continued big infrastructure as we built out a lot of plant in Texas and Virginia and Atlanta and other markets. And then I went to, lastly, in my career, Global Capacity, which was a completely different business, but got me a great perspective of the buy side of the market. Global Capacity was a network aggregator, buying from about 180 different networks, in which we'd aggregate, package up, and deliver as a service back to big customers, and learned a lot about the inefficiencies of the buy side of the market there, along with the inefficiencies of the construction market with FiberLight building big networks, and the big carrier and the CLEC perspectives that I gained with MCI and Expedius. And all that experience led me to found Connectbase.
That's amazing. So you were very, very fortunate to pick your passion and be able to stay with it throughout the course of your career. So I imagine you're likely in a place now where you get a fair amount of college students and entry-level grads that may come to you and ask you for advice on what it's like working in and around the data center industry, what it's like in telecommunications, how do you see the role of telecommunications and the digital infrastructure moving forward? What advice would you give to someone who's just getting into the space?
And it's exactly like that. I mean, we see at Connectbase, we're in a privileged position to have a great growth story, and so people tend to reach out and want to participate in that. But the advice that I give are, one, jump in and participate. The digital infrastructure space, whether you're looking at data centers, towers, or fiber, are not going anywhere. If you believe that the digital economy is here to stay and it's changing how we live, how we play, how we work, how we learn, in all kinds of perspectives, the enabler of that to continue to be a reality and continue to flourish sits inside of data centers and across the fiber networks and connected to the poles that have the antennas that make all of us, look at our phone all day long, throughout society. And those realities, have created a set of opportunities in this ecosystem for new college grads and aspiring to be college students looking for future careers in which this industry provides a tremendous amount of long-term opportunity, which I think is a competitive advantage for this industry to attract young students and recent grads too. And we need it. We have a shortage of skilled employees throughout the ecosystem in different roles, and we need to continue to tell the story and compete against healthcare, compete against pure play software development, computer science, and other things. And we have a great story to tell in our industry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the ongoing challenges is competing for talent. And there's been a lot of great grassroots movements that have popped up over the last couple of years to try to address getting that message in front of teens in their formative years when they're exploring their career options. But shifting gears, you're blessed to be able to have such a tremendous amount of career experience and industry wisdom that you've acquired over the years. If you ran into someone at a conference that you worked with maybe 10, 15 years ago, and they said, Ben, I feel kind of stuck. I'm ready for my next chapter, but I don't know what it should be. They're kind of mid-career and they're trying to figure things out. What would you offer to a former colleague in that kind of context?
Yeah, great question. I think in that context, I would, shine a light on the fact that there are opportunities out there, but it starts with passion. I'm blessed of doing something that I absolutely love and I believe in. And I think if we can all step back and really think about what gets people excited to come to work, to solve problems, to work with customers every day in whatever role that is and whatever company that is, if you're passionate about it and you believe that you have purpose, to me, that's the right thing. And that's, fundamentally the most important thing for the person to figure out and the advice I'd give. And once you have that, then it's really about doing the homework and outreach and finding where that passion leads you.
Which is an interesting irony, is that for people that are in a sales or customer facing role, one of the first things that they need to get really good at is prospecting for themselves and taking control of their own professional career.
And it's hard. It's not a simple thing, but it is absolutely important to learn how to do and to do well.
By the nature of Connectbase and your business model, clearly you look at things that are working well in the industry and things that are not. When you look at a broad perspective of connectivity, telecommunications, digital infrastructure, data centers, what do you see that you've figured out that you wish the industry would catch up to sooner rather than later?
That's a good one. That's a hard question to ask. I think probably top of that list is to be data driven in this society, this market, from an individual, from a company, from a macro level. I mean, if you just rely on your gut instinct only and you don't use data to help inform how you're going to move and do things next, you're missing opportunities to make better decisions and do what's right. I think that would be, key to success across all kinds of different elements of this ecosystem, and something that we try to help people with at Connectbase. I think secondly is, one thing that we can never get back is time. And so leveraging automation not out of fear, or taking a wait and see approach, but embracing it so we can allocate our talented people's time to the right things and create that enabler that automation allows us to do would be the second. And the industry's done an okay job of that across the stack overall, but not a fantastic job. And we need to continue to evolve and embrace that. And I think third is focus on experience. The customer experience, the employee experience, the buying experience, the selling experience. If we look at that experience and the outcomes that we're trying to achieve, regardless of whether you're selling a data center, a tower, a piece of fiber, a managed solution, whatever that is, the experience matters. And when we can tailor it and align it to the outcomes that each party is looking for, really elevates value and the opportunity to do things together over and over again. So if the industry embraced data, automation, and a focus on the experience of both customer and employee, I think we will continue to move this industry forward at leaps and bounds.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because I follow you closely enough on LinkedIn that I know we're big fans of the Gartner stat on 83% of a typical journey is now over before sales contact. So if you're going to figure out a way to be involved in most of that journey, it's about education and adding value, not just the transaction anymore.
Absolutely. You want to participate fully and get your chance to enable that journey the way the buyer wants that journey to happen, not your way. And that is an important mindset shift out there.
I often tell people, if you think of the impression that you'd get from having a conversation with a Big Four consultant, like someone that works for PwC or Deloitte or KPMG or something like that, that's the reframe and the repositioning of how these interactions need to feel, where you're not just reading them information that's on a website, where you really truly feel like those interactions feel like free consulting, and they're looking forward to talking to people from your team, as opposed to having to chase and beg and cajole them, whatever else you need to get a meeting.
You're literally exchanging and giving value at each point, not just a website with context on it, but real value that helps the buyer in their journey or helps the seller in their journey, because ultimately you're competing for the talent, and that best talent wants that support and help as well.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
So with that in mind, you've had a lot of different roles in this space, in sales and marketing, leadership roles. When you think about how this profession within telecommunications and digital infrastructure is going to change in the next few years, what do you see coming? What's in the crystal ball? What does the job description and the daily routine look like 2, 3, 4 years out from now that's different from today?
That's a good question. I think ultimately it is a job description that is filled with how do you enable and build trust. And trust comes through transparency, comes through knowledge sharing, comes through embracing data and being able to share that data and support the customer's ability to get to their value and understand it. I think the skill set is one that is needing increasingly to be both a business owner mindset of understanding the financials that create a win-win across the chasm, as well as that relationship aspect where you're looking back, but always looking forward as a partner, and understand what those goals are from a relationship standpoint that you need to lead the company and the buyer through to achieve milestones together. I think if more and more people looked at that as capabilities, that will elevate the ability to have success in a career. I think embracing the automation, the delivery of experience, the use of data are not skill sets just for the industry, but very specifically for the go-to-market teams that operate in this industry as well. So if you're not looking to embrace automation and data, you're missing the opportunity to create real success in this industry.
So the irony is, in many cases, to achieve the trust, less can be more when you're looking at the data and focusing on your prospects and what your customers and your partners experience, what they want it to be, and showing up in a way that adds value as opposed to just selfish asks all the time.
Yeah, that's spot on. And data alone is not the answer to, a lot of times it's less is more, to your point, and it's the insight rather than just dumping a sea of data to a seller or to a buyer. How do you derive insight from that data and share it transparently that's going to add value?
So when we think about data, so much of the conversation now in this industry centers around AI, and we've both been in the space long enough to know that although AI is capturing all the headlines the last year or two because of OpenAI and generative AI, we know it's anyone that's ever used GPS or shopped on Amazon or watched stuff on Netflix knows that AI and machine learning has been around for a while. Yeah, I mean, but you think about like your daily routine. Is there anything that you see has changed major in your leadership role at Connectbase because of the change in the tools and apps with how you lead the company, how your teams operate?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ability to use the tools to gain insight faster and with alternative perspectives, if you know how to use them, is definitely improved and shifted pretty dramatically over the last 12 months. So while AI has been around a long time, the ability to consume AI-driven outcomes is easier and has more perspectives. Now, it comes with a double-edged sword where you have to know how you're operating the machine, if you would, to get the outcomes that you're looking for. And if you don't, it can lead to bad decisions and bad information. But if you do, I find the ability to engage, execute, and get the insights that you want from different perspectives has elevated pretty dramatically, and the ability to create the next step, understanding of an analysis of a financial model, or looking at 400 different data points and finding the common threads in it. Those type of capabilities has just elevated. It's been there for a while, but the elevation and the speed in which you can gain those insights and the ability for a non-developer to consume them is pretty fantastic at this point, and will continue to evolve and continue to get better, in my belief.
Have you had any interesting surprises come up internally as teams have started using AI tools? Has it required any real rethinking of cultures and playbook and processes and how teams work with each other?
I think the biggest thing that we think about is over the next 12 to 24 months, it's going to dramatically change the customer or the experience of how software is consumed and used. So while it's not there yet, it will increasingly get there in ways that are very direct, where natural language is the way of communicating what your need is. In our case, things like asking for a 17 node network to be built and understand the differences between and trade-offs between performance, diversity, and cost, and to show the optimal outcomes of each scenario and the economic differences. To do that in a traditional sense would take a really long time. To do that with Connectbase today doesn't take a long time, but requires the ability to click and input and set those configurations in the system. We think we shift that pretty dramatically over the next 12 months, where a user, whether they're seller trying to sell something or a buyer trying to buy something, is literally just asking that question, whether they type it in or speak it, and they get those responses. And that's because the tech is enabled to take us there when you have the right data in a controlled environment versus just going out with AI across the internet.
because of what the nature of what you do and what you've built and are continuing to evolve at Connectbase, I imagine you have a different way of looking at SaaS and platforms than other people, different types of criteria. So if you hired a new CTO and they're going around the first couple of weeks and they're trying to figure out what apps are being well used in the company and which are probably not as essential, what are the must save top of the list apps that nobody can pry away from you that would be essential to what you do?
Yeah, I mean, the CRM is still a critical tool inside the business. I won't throw out the brand names that are used here today, but at the end of the day, we think it's a foundational part of how we understand our current customers and go forward customers. We're a big fan of Jira and Confluence for documenting how work gets done, ticketizing the workflow so we can analyze and understand it and make it better. Those things can't go away. They are absolutely critical to how we work and how we continuously focus on how do we get better? How do we take time out? How do we improve the experience? How do we do something? You can't do that if you don't understand the work. And tools like that give us the ability to understand the work nicely.
In addition to tools, we know that the industry is constantly changing. So I'm really curious if you have any favorite podcasts or YouTubers or anyone that you listen to or depend on for regular advice that you think would be an especially great fit to have on this podcast at some point.
Oh, geez, I'm going to have to think about that one. But I love that. I love podcasts. I love what you're doing and sharing the different perspectives. Like is just part of the learning journey that we have. So I think more of the industry needs to hear alternative perspectives around the use side of the equation that helps them then frame up what we do as an industry to serve that. So getting academia, government, and enterprise to share their mindsets, not just the hyperscaler mindset or the data center operator or the fiber company mindset. I think those are important perspectives that I try to go out and seek and would be beneficial for having on podcasts like this.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think when people are relatively new to the space, they don't realize how many different segments there are besides just the operators, the co-location operators. It seem like at times that they're leading a lot of this, but you have multiple categories of operators. You have all different kinds of technology companies, of which, of course, telecommunications is an incredibly important part of that. You have all the facilities companies, the real estate and the construction ecosystem. It's just you almost need like a tour guide at a theme park to take someone on a tram tour the first couple of days or first couple of weeks to understand the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And you think about your podcast would go to market like the managed service provider who doesn't necessarily own any of the assets, doesn't necessarily have the IP network, but they're delivering and selling the solutions across the chasm, and there is literally tens of thousands of them out there, and they are a really important part of the ecosystem to make the ecosystem execute. And a portion of the ecosystem I tend to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, I think that's a part that has been around for like literally a generation or two. That's how I originally got involved in the co-location space 10 years or so ago, when I saw a lot of managed service providers struggling with the struggle moving from client server into cloud. And a lot of them were either becoming software developers, building apps. Some of them were going into ERP, and a lot of them said, I'm going to put a box in a facility or in a co-location facility, and my clients could use a piece of that. Or some of the really forward-thinking small and medium-sized business clients said, here, put a box or two of ours. We don't know what to do with it, but we know we need this. So you go figure out how to provision and manage it. And it's evolved tremendously. I think in the early days, a lot of them were patterning themselves after being like CPAs, like the trusted business advisor type of role. I think there's a lot more scale, a lot more opportunity. But yeah, for sure, it's a great way to reach fragmented markets.
Without a doubt.
So Ben, what's the best way for someone to keep up with what you're working on, or reach out to you if they have any questions or want to connect and learn more about you and Connectbase?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joshua. There's three ways to keep track and get an update and understanding. Number one, go visit us on LinkedIn. We're active there. We communicate. I communicate. The company communicates regularly to share what we're doing. We just announced a feature around A to Z path inside of our connected world with diversity checks. Go to our website, www.connectbase.com. All kinds of great information there. Click a button to request a demo and get engaged to the team. And for whoever wants to just reach out directly to me, it's ben@connectbase.com. Easiest way to reach out to me, and look forward to continuing to participate in this awesome industry, and appreciate the time today.
I appreciate you sharing your insights so generously. This has been amazing. We'll make sure to include those resources captioned into the video and in the show notes with the podcast as well. But this has been terrific. Really appreciate it, Ben.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Take care now.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.